Live streaming plus food plus farming plus raising offspring, Zuo Qiongqiong wore it and went into a mountain ditch. There is electricity, communication, and internet here, but she has nothing. Start with a room, 2 children, a mountain full of pig grass, and endless potatoes to eat. Zuo Qiongqiong angrily threw a bowl. These days cannot be lived anymore. Then silently picked up the bowl that had rolled away. After all, it was the only intact bowl in the family. Isn't it just starting from scratch? Zuo Qiongqiong took out her phone and arranged the stand. Everyone else's live broadcast room is selling bitterness, while Zuo Qiongqiong's live broadcast room has a unique art style. The first second is shaking the spoon, the second is wensi tofu, and she even made flowers from the most potatoes around her. Netizens. This anchor has something to offer. Uncertain. Let me take another look. It is widely known on the internet that food blogger Zuo Fugue has a boyfriend who never shows his face. He is tall, with slender fingers, and is said to be 5 points similar to a certain movie star. But even though fans searched the entire internet, they couldn't find the man's face photo. In the end, a certain actor was forced to come out and respond. People are on a plane, just got off Paris, don't cut a single dog. At night, the weak investment tycoon hugged Zuo Qiongqiong's waist and whispered, "Bow, let's have one, just one." She kicked over and said, "Get out of here." Keywords of the novel. Millions of fans in the live streaming circle, actor begging me to cook without pop-ups, millions of fans in the live streaming circle, actor begging me to cook. Download the full text, millions of fans in the live streaming circle, actor begging me to cook. Latest chapter reading. Chapter 1. Hand-catching, salted fish. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1. Hand-catching, salted fish, puff. The sound of huge splashes echoed through the stream, and after a moment, a thin and weak girl in her teens emerged from the water. Some dry and yellow hair is completely wet and stuck to the face, and clothes are also soaked and tightly attached to the body. Piercing cold. Zuo Qiongqiong, who had emerged from the water, looked at the unfamiliar environment around her with a bewildered expression. Why did she suddenly fall into the river? Her name is Zuo Qiongqiong, and she is a food blogger with millions of fans. 1 second she was still filming fishing in the countryside, the next second she fell into the water, and when she got up again, the world changed its face. The theme of this episode is a video of rice and fish symbiosis, but now, the clear and bottomless rice fields have truly turned into a turbulent small river. The pink fishing leather pants she spent a huge amount of money on are gone, even the big gold chain around her neck. It's also gone. Zuo Qiongqiong was immersed in the grief of the disappearance of the golden chain when her brain suddenly twitched. Memories flooded her mind, and if there wasn't a stone nearby to support her, she would have almost fallen into the water. After a long 10 seconds, Zuo Qiongqiong accepted this reality and was reborn into an ordinary person in a mountain ditch. The other party's name is also Zuo Qiongqiong, as the name suggests, very poor. The original owner's family was very miserable, with no father or mother since childhood, and he relied on his elder brother, Zuo Qiongqiong, for his livelihood. But the older brother had an accident while chopping firewood up the mountain a few days ago, and his sister-in-law ran away, leaving only 2 children behind. Faced with some debts and the 2 children left behind after his elder brother's death, the original owner of the first year of college had to take a leave of absence and return home. After being carefully protected by her older brother since childhood, she left the campus like a headless fly, and her money was stolen on the way home, leaving only her phone. When the original owner took the train back home overnight, there were only 2 children left. A sickly old sow, the grass on the mountain, and potatoes that had not yet been dug up in the field. She went down the river today to improve the food for her 2 children, but she couldn't swim and drowned directly. Zuo Qiongqiong looked at the reflection in the water. It's okay if the original owner wouldn't drown herself, she has won the swimming competition championship. Suddenly it creaks now, I'm really not willing to accept it. When Zuo Qiongqiong questioned the sky, she suddenly felt her calf position lightly touched twice. She lowered her head and saw that it was actually a very fat carp. Her hand movements were faster than her brain's thinking speed, and she closed her hands and directly caught the fish. Before, Zuo Qiongqiong had caught a fish, but it was the first time she had seen a fish that she obediently held without struggling. What is this? Trapped in a net. Shouldn't this fish have a bad brain? If it weren't for realizing in the original owner's memory that there was no pollution in this river, Zuo Qiongqiong would have suspected that the fish had taken some inappropriate medicine. Stuff this salted fish into the net bag brought by the original owner, and Zuo Qiongqiong is ready to climb towards the shore. The water was really cold, so she stood for a while, and her legs were numb from the cold. But before she could take a few steps, the scene just now reappeared, with several fish surrounding her legs. Even though Zuo Qiongqiong stumbled, none of them escaped. It's really strange. Without hesitation, Zuo Qiongqiong grabbed the net and collected all the fish in her bag. Even though she had some mental preparation after reading the original owner's memory, when she saw that dilapidated thatched cottage, Zuo Qiongqiong almost pouted. Before traveling, she was also a $1 million food blogger. Even if she didn't have the money to buy a house, she still had more than enough money to rent. What is this? Will there really be such dilapidated houses in the 21st century? A few sparse piles of straw hang on the eaves without moving their hearts, constantly risking falling off. The walls of the thatched cottage are made of soil mixed with straw, and after being exposed to rain and wind, even cracks as big as palms have cracked. Isn't this really a dangerous house? When Zuo Qiongqiong was stunned, two dirty little balls ran out of the room, and when she was unprepared, she hugged one of her legs. Auntie! You're finally back. Auntie is so amazing. She really caught a fish. Both Tuanzi are children of the original owner's elder brother. The taller little girl is called Zuo Fan, who is only 5 years old this year, and the shorter little boy is called Zuo Guang, who is only 3 years old. The clothes worn by the two groups were both tattered and stained, as if they had never been changed before. It was precisely because of the original owner's memory that Zuo Qiongqiong was filled with pity for these two children. You two, wait a moment, I'll go cook for you. Although she is a mother and fetus soloist who doesn't know how to take care of her child, she is still skilled in cooking. After all, she is a food blogger, and this small issue is still a piece of cake. This confidence disappeared as Zuo Qiongqiong walked to the stove, leaving only a bewildered expression on her face. Even if she is an omnipotent food blogger, without rice, oil, or salt, the pot still has a big hole. Is there really a need to cook? Zuo Fan ran over and grabbed the hem of her clothes, which was staring blankly, saying, "Auntie, can I help you make a fire?" Zuo Qiongqiong took the lighter in her hand and flipped through the broken screen of the original owner's phone. Fortunately, there were still a few hundred yuan inside. "Xiaofan, you and Xiaoguang are waiting at home. I'll go borrow some oil and rice noodles." After speaking, he picked up the fishing net and walked towards the nearest household. A clever woman cannot cook without rice. In her impression, this is an old lady who comes to her hometown for retirement. She doesn't usually like to go out, but every week someone comes to deliver ingredients to her. The original owner, due to timidity, would rather have 3 people eat potatoes every day than dare to borrow anything. Zuo Qiongqiong is different. She thinks this is not borrowing something, it's exchanging things. Fish was a universal currency in ancient times, and it simply returned to the era of barter. The exquisite iron door in front of her and the cracked earthen wall inside her home formed a sharp contrast. Looking at her hands that smelled fishy, Zuo Qiongqiong suddenly felt a little embarrassed. After wiping the clothes twice, he reached out and knocked on the door. "Is anyone at home? Is anyone there?" After knocking twice, she finally heard a commotion coming from inside the door. Zuo Qiongqiong took a step back and showed her sincerity. "Who? What can I do for you?" An old lady's voice came from far to near. Zuo Qiongqiong raised her voice and said, "Grandma, I caught a few fresh fish in the river, but my house runs out of oil. I just wanted to see if I can exchange some with you." Fish. The old lady opened a crack in the door and only opened it when she saw the heavy fishing net in her hand. Zuo Qiongqiong watched the play and tried to restrain her nervousness. She immediately started selling. "Look, this is so fresh. I just caught them all. I have no other intention, I just want to exchange some rice flour oil or something like that with you. Just give me a little as you see. Otherwise, I can buy it with money." The fish in her hand, which was still lifeless just now, seemed to understand her words and immediately jumped happily. Zuo Qiongqiong almost couldn't catch it. A new book that has been prepared for a long time, please review and collect please, Illinois, end of this chapter. Chapter 2. Boiled Fish. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2 Boiled Fish. The old lady leaned on a cane and looked up and down at her, saying, "You come in. I didn't expect this matter to be quite easy." Zuo Qiongqiong was so happy that she couldn't close her mouth. After entering the door, her envy almost overflowed in her eyes. "How big! So spacious, this is my dream of a rural life." The yard is large and divided into two areas. On one side, it is paved with bricks to prevent slipping as a daily activity area, while on the other side, it is filled with various seasonal vegetables. There are also several pots of fresh flowers at the entrance. To the east of the main house is a separate kitchen with bright lighting, even larger than the thatched cottage where Zuo Qiongqiong and the three of them live. Inside, there is a refrigerator and an induction cooker. The old lady first entered the kitchen and took out a stainless steel basin for her, saying, "Let's put it in first." I walked over to the cabinet, rustled for a while, and finally handed her a large black plastic bag. Zuo Qiongqiong glanced casually and found out that there was a small bucket of oil, 2 bags of salt, and even some rice and noodles, enough for the three of them to eat for a while. She panicked a bit and quickly said, "Grandma, there are too many things. Fish is not worth the money." The old lady held her hand and said, "You are a hard-working child. Even if you don't eat, those 2 children can't go hungry. Follow Grandma's advice and take them back." Zuo Qiongqiong didn't expect to receive her first kindness as soon as she crossed over. Even though she faced such difficult living conditions, she suddenly felt full of hope. "Okay, thank you. I will definitely return it to you." Just as Zuo Qiongqiong was about to leave, she suddenly heard a cough coming from inside the room. She stopped and asked, "What is this?" The old lady sighed and said, "This is my spouse. We are getting older and our health is getting worse day by day. We will come back to take care of ourselves and make our children easier." Zuo Qiongqiong is just a cook and is powerless to handle such things. But perhaps she can also help the 2 elderly people. Zuo Qiongqiong withdrew her foot as she was about to step out of the door, put the bag aside, and said, "Grandma, let me help you cook. I don't want your money, just consider it as if you bought me with these things." The old lady could tell that she didn't want to owe herself anything, so she nodded and said, "Okay, then you can do it. Everything in the refrigerator can be used. Do you have any dietary restrictions? And there's Grandpa inside, what's not to eat?" Zuo Qiongqiong is a qualified food blogger, naturally taking care of the world's first customer. He likes spicy food, while I eat light. "Okay." Zuo Qiongqiong nodded and turned to enter the kitchen. The fish that were just put into the basin were swimming happily, without any foresight of their impending tragic fate. Zuo Qiongqiong considered that the appetite of the 2 elderly people might not be too large, so she took out a medium-sized fish, neatly opened the stomach, cleaned the internal organs, and sliced and pickled them. Put oil in the pot, add scallions, ginger, dried chili peppers and stir-fry until fragrant. Put the fish bones and heads into the pot and stir-fry. When the fish bones turn brown, add an appropriate amount of boiling water. Cover the pot and in less than 5 minutes, the fish soup inside has turned into a milky white with a fresh taste. Zuo Qiongqiong picked up a spoon and scooped out the broken fish bones and seasonings, leaving only a pot of delicious fish soup. Mei Hongmin was surprised when she saw this. She had originally wanted the little girl to stir-fry 2 dishes at will, but she didn't expect that she still had this skill. She easily boiled the fish soup into white. The fish, which she had been cooking for decades and couldn't handle the fishy smell well, seemed particularly easy in her hands. Zuo Qiongqiong first served a little fish soup and handed it to Mei Hongmin. "Grandma, please taste it first. If it's not salty enough, I'll add some more salt." Mei Hongmin almost trembled as she took the bowl of fish soup. Even before it was imported, the fresh and sweet taste rushed into her nose. She eagerly took a small sip, and the fresh aroma of the fish soup filled her mouth, slowly sliding down her throat, warming her empty stomach. Zuo Qiongqiong looked at her expression, feeling a bit uncertain. She should have tasted it herself first. What if it doesn't suit her taste? I won't be kicked out, will I? Just as she was worried, Mei Hongmin finished the remaining fish soup in just a few bites and exhaled a satisfied breath of hot air. "Little girl, your craftsmanship is really good. I have never tasted such delicious fish soup before." Zuo Qiongqiong finally let go of the heart she was just carrying, with a smile on her lips. "As long as you think it tastes good. Slide the marinated fish slices into the boiling fish soup, just turn off the heat immediately as the fish changes color. The fish meat made in this way is fresh, tender, and smooth. The fish meat is completely different, and paired with a bowl of milky white fish soup, it is even more enjoyable." Due to the old lady's preference for light food, Zuo Qiongqiong did not add any stimulating seasoning. Instead, she chose to use chili peppers and mixed a dip in water for the old man who liked heavy mouthfuls. As she grew older, it was even more important to pay attention to the combination of meat and vegetables. So, Zuo Qiongqiong picked a delicate little cabbage in the yard, boiled hot spicy peppers, quickly drew a circle in the pot, and drizzled another circle of white vinegar when it was about to be served. The cabbage made in this way not only retains its crisp taste, but also has a delicious sour and spicy taste. Zuo Qiongqiong originally wanted to stir-fry another dish, but Mei Hongmin stopped her and said, "We are too old to eat so much. You still have 2 children at home, hurry back and don't let them worry." If it weren't for being reminded by the other party, Zuo Qiongqiong really forgot about the 2 buns at home and quickly bid farewell to the other party with the bag in her hand. Before walking along the desolate mountain road to the doorstep, Zuo Qiongqiong heard the cries of 2 little buns. She let out a loud cry in her heart and hugged the bag in her hand, running away. The closer they got, the more piercing the cries of the 2 children became, and Zuo Qiongqiong's heart suddenly tugged. 2 children stood at the door, their eyes red. After seeing her appear, they stopped and couldn't help but sob, "Auntie, I thought you didn't want us anymore." Saying a "Gulu" came from Zuo Guang's little belly. The little boy held onto the decayed door frame and awkwardly covered his stomach, saying, "Auntie, I'm hungry." Zuo Qiongqiong slammed her head and said in a flustered tone, "Baby, wait. Auntie is going to cook right away." Zuo Guang looked at Zuo Qiongqiong, who had turned around to pack her things, and his ears slightly blushed. This was the first time his aunt had called him "baby," as his father had always called him before. The original owner was quite fond of cleanliness. If you don't look at the dust on the stove, the edges of the bowl, the mud on the chopsticks, and everything in the messy house, well, it's quite clean. Fortunately, there is a water pipe in this house, and Zuo Qiongqiong carefully cleaned the pot and dishes. Only then did they realize that the original owner's sister-in-law had only left 3 bowls for them, and there were 2 with notches, which could easily scratch their lips if not noticed. With the rice, noodles, and seasonings brought from the old lady's house, Zuo Qiongqiong now has confidence. Isn't it just 2 children? I deliberately went to kindergarten to inspect the things that children like to eat. However, children should be more careful when eating fish, as fish bones can be very dangerous. So Zuo Qiongqiong split the fish in the middle and used the back of her knife to scrape the fish meat into delicate fish paste, paying attention to whether there were any fine spines mixed in with each scrape. Zuo Fan looked at her skillful hands and hesitated, asking, "Auntie, what are we eating today?" When Zuo Qiongqiong saw a hint of worry in her eyes and was puzzled, memories of the original owner came to her mind. The original owner was a kitchen idiot who couldn't cook at all. The big hole on top of this pot was accidentally smashed by the original owner, so they only had to feed the potatoes on the mountain every day a while ago, and even the bowls and chopsticks were useless. You add, I add, Xiaozhang's happiness depends on everyone. You vote for me, I vote for you. I won't sleep tonight. End of this chapter. Did you start beautifying yourself in chapter 3? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Did you start beautifying yourself in chapter 3? Looking at the worried appearance of the little girl, she even wanted to take the knife from her hand. A flash of inspiration flashed in Zuo Qiongqiong's mind and she said, "Xiaofan, you may not believe it. After I went out today, I met an old immortal who taught me how to cook. How about waiting for my aunt to cook for you?" Zuo Fan admits that his aunt is very kind to their siblings, but she really knows nothing about cooking. Forget it, let's go dig some potatoes ourselves. Thinking this way, the little girl quietly left the door. When Zuo Qiongqiong was focused on scraping the fish paste, she never thought that Zuo Fan, a small girl, had already taken on so much responsibility in her heart. Not long ago, Zuo Qiongqiong, who was still full of confidence, is now squatting in front of the stove, unable to stop coughing due to the smoke. When cooking at Mei Hongmin's house before, she didn't realize how difficult it was to cross over, but now she can't even light a fire. After trying more than 10 times, I successfully lit a straw and the lighter was scorching hot. The thick smoke dissipated and a raging fire ignited, almost causing her hair to become bald. Fortunately, the original owner tidied up a lot of wood and placed it next to the stove, so that Zuo Qiongqiong wouldn't have to pick up firewood and start a fire when she was in a hurry. Heat the water in the pot until warm, then use chopsticks to slide the fish paste into the pot. Fresh fish meat solidifies into round small balls in warm water, looking very cute. After all the fish balls have solidified, increase the heat and bring to a boil. When each fish ball floats on the water surface, it means it is cooked. After putting the fish balls into the bowl, Zuo Qiongqiong immediately turned around to prepare the staple food, the cake she had just kneaded. But before it even got into the pot, the fire at the bottom of the pot went out again. "Auntie, what is this?" Zuo Guang jumped off the bed barefoot and pointed to the round fish balls inside the bowl. Zuo Qiongqiong played a trick and said, "I won't tell you for now, you'll know later." Without a clock, Zuo Qiongqiong could only roughly infer that it was around 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon based on the sun above her head, and she needed to speed up. Add a small amount of oil to the pot, let the oil heat up, and then put the smooth pancake into it. In less than 2 minutes, you can smell the aroma of wheat. When Zuo Fan came back holding a pile of potatoes, he happened to be in time for Zuo Qiongqiong to serve out the golden pancakes he had fried. "Auntie, did you do all of this?" She was too surprised, and all the potatoes in her arms fell to the ground. Zuo Qiongqiong felt a bit guilty when she saw the small ball covered in mud from digging potatoes. She quickly took the potatoes from her hand and said, "Yes, wash your hands and eat quickly, otherwise it will be cold soon." This is her first meal since coming to this world, although it may not be considered sumptuous, it can satisfy her empty stomach. Eat the fish balls first, then tear up the pancake and soak it in the soup, not to mention how delicious it is. Zuo Qiongqiong arranged the dishes for cooking and instinctively wanted to take out her phone to take a photo, but she found herself feeling empty. She awkwardly patted her hands and greeted the 2 children, "All right, come and eat." But the 2 children didn't wait, and outside came the voice of a strange man. "What are you doing? Let go of the 2 children." As soon as Zuo Qiongqiong walked out, she saw a man dressed in a flowing and elegant manner grabbing the ears of his two children and saying some obscene things. Your damn mother just doesn't want you anymore. No one will want you two as a burden. We'll throw you two into the mountain ditch another day, and let the wolf take you two away. The two children, Zuo Guang and Zuo Fan, recently experienced the pain of losing their loved ones, and upon hearing these words, they cried even more urgently. What nonsense are you talking about? Zuo Qiongqiong took a step forward and pulled the two children back into her arms. She retrieved the figure of the person in front of her from the original owner's memory, which was his cousin Zuo Dufu, who had lent him a sum of money when he was in college. Since then, I have seen the original owner and his elder brother all with a haughty and arrogant expression, borrowing 3,000 yuan without hesitation. Zuo Qiongqiong looked displeased at the unfriendly person in front of her and asked, "What are you doing here? You stinky girl, what are you saying I'm here for?" "Repay me," shouted Zuo Dufu. "Last year when you were admitted to college, our family thought you were promising. I didn't expect to be kicked back by the school so quickly. The promised 3-year repayment doesn't count anymore. You have to repay me today." The original owner's family owed money, and he took over the original owner's body, so this debt naturally fell on himself. Zuo Qiongqiong does not deny it. "But where isn't the leaking house in front of us and the two tattered buns in tattered clothes where we need money? Okay, I started with a lot of debt, repay the money. Did you hear me?" Zuo Dufu felt anxious when he saw her not speaking. "Just now, my mother said that if he can get this money back, he will make a wife's book for him and go find a matchmaker tomorrow." Zuo Qiongqiong clenched her fist and said, "Cousin, you also see that I really don't have money and can't take out so much." Zuo Dufu was stunned and said, "What should I do? I still want to marry a wife. Even if your family is poor, don't drag us into it. When my mom came, she even said that even if the money doesn't come back today, we can't let the other party entangle with their house anymore." With this in mind, he took a big step back and said, "Let me tell you. Our family doesn't have any money, so we can't lend you any more." Zuo Qiongqiong said, "I didn't mean that. I just wanted to ask if this money can be repaid in 2 months. She carefully thought about it. Although the original owner was a bookworm who knew nothing, she was not the original owner. She was a food blogger with millions of fans. In the original owner's memory, she has learned about video platforms in this world, which can be said to be not very prosperous. I came from a rapidly developing world of video platforms, so it seems time to pick up my old business and pay off my debts." Just now, Zuo Dufu felt that the money couldn't be returned. When he was about to take action, he suddenly heard her say these words, and a hint of doubt appeared in his eyes. "Is it really fake? Are you really returning it to me in 2 months?" Zuo Qiongqiong nodded. 2 months is enough for herself to earn 3,000 yuan in this world. In the self-media industry, I have been doing it for several years, and I am confident in what the audience likes. The next second, she saw Zuo Dufu in front of her take out his fruit phone and turn on the recording function. "I don't believe you a bit. Please repeat what you said earlier." "Zuo Qiongqiong. Have you started looking beautiful?" Then, Zuo Qiongqiong recorded the video with a very serious attitude, which was due to return 3,000 yuan, without any beauty or filters. Zuo Dufu played the video in a loop several times, then nodded in satisfaction and said with his nose in the air, "That's it for now. I'll come back to you with the IOU in 2 months." After speaking, he swaggered away. Zuo Qiongqiong breathed a sigh of relief. This goal seemed a bit difficult, but fortunately, this cousin was not very intelligent. Even if he couldn't earn enough, he could still be granted a few more days. Family members, if nothing unexpected happens, there won't be any recommendations this week. I hope everyone can leave more comments and use their little hands to bookmark, otherwise we really have to change it to only updating 2000 per day. End of this chapter. Chapter 4. VU 5000. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4 VU 5000 After the incident at Zuo Qiongqiong's home, there were not many relatives in the family, and now they are all being avoided. Zuo Dafu and his family are quite good, at least they didn't insist on her repaying the money, otherwise even the sickly old sow couldn't be saved. Pig yeah. There is also an old sow at home. Zuo Qiongqiong is already excited. She can sell the old sow she doesn't know how to feed and get the first funding. She wished she could run towards the pigsty now, but it's still important to eat. She directly placed everything on the cabinet by the bed, without a table, and could only temporarily use this cabinet instead. Zuo Fan had long been eagerly anticipating, looking at the white and tender small fish balls and golden small cakes, for a moment unsure of how to proceed. Zuo Qiongqiong looked at the two little buns feeling helpless and handed them two palm-sized pancakes. Try Aunt's craft quickly, she said. Zuo Fan glanced painfully at the oil residue at the bottom of the pot, as she had never seen a pancake that could use so much oil before. But the cake in my hand looks crispy. She tore open the yubing, deep-fried round and flat dough cake, which was crisp in appearance, but soft and layered outside. Before it was put into her mouth, she could feel the delicious taste coming to her face. Zuo Guang, who was still young, had already stuffed the cake into his mouth and blurted, "It's delicious. The rice cooked by my aunt is the best." Zuo Fan hesitated and took a small bite. The aroma of oil and flour colliding burst into his mouth. Every bite could feel the crispness of the outer shell and the softness inside. When kneading the dough, Zuo Qiongqiong added a small amount of salt, which not only added some base flavor, but also made the dough more chewy. Without realizing it, Zuo Fan had already eaten a small cake. Looking at the remaining cake on the plate, it could be left for dinner. She forced herself to retract her gaze, but the next second a small cake was stuffed into her hand. Zuo Qiongqiong smiled and said, "Let's eat. We still have a lot of noodles. We can make them again tonight." However, Zuo Fan hesitated a bit. After her father left, she had never eaten white bread again. Her mother said that girls always marry someone else, and eating good food is useless. Zuo Qiongqiong handed her the cake and said, "Don't you believe what Aunt said? When we have money in the future, we can eat whatever we want." Zuo Fan said, but his eyes turned red as he took the cake. "This meatball is so delicious. I have never tasted anything so delicious before." Zuo Guang, who was much younger, didn't have that much thought. Zuo Qiongqiong. "Yes. Xiaofan, also eat fish balls quickly." Seeing the smiles on the faces of the two children, Zuo Qiongqiong's heart was also satisfied. Although she didn't know how she came into this world, and even the two children were in debt at the beginning, fortunately both children were very sensible. She believes that as long as she works hard, she can definitely change the current bleak situation. The fish balls have only undergone simple processing without adding cooking wine or ginger, but fortunately, the fish is fresh, with a mild earthy smell and a tender and refreshing taste. When bitten down, you can still feel a slight popping sensation. It seems that my culinary talent will not disappear no matter where I go, and in the future, I will still rely on my old skills to become rich. First, become a food blogger for a few days, check the trend of self-media, and if it doesn't work out, open a storefront in a small restaurant. Zuo Qiongqiong drank all her fish ball soup in one breath, and after telling the two little dumplings not to run around, she was going to see the old sow. A good life needs to be created by oneself. Didn't I also face opposition from everyone around me when I first graduated and wanted to do self-media? Isn't it just that the opening was a bit difficult? Can this be difficult to defeat oneself? No. Zuo Qiongqiong ran towards the direction of the pigsty in her impression, and in the next second, her fighting spirit dissipated completely. After seeing this sow with her own eyes, she finally understood the true meaning of the 4 words, bone and bone. It's just skin and bones, the shape of the ribs is exposed. Squandered in the corner of the pigsty, if it weren't for the undulating belly, Zuo Qiongqiong almost thought that the other party had already gone west. What kind of pig is this? Isn't this pure, fine pig? No wonder the sister-in-law of the original owner showed great mercy and left them a sow, which looked half dead and thin. Even if she wanted to sell it, no one needed it. Zuo Qiongqiong squatted at the entrance of the open-air pigsty, looking at the endless mountains and forests. Her mind was filled with sorrow. The reserve funds need to be fattened up a bit before they can be used, and we can only use the few hundred yuan left in the original owner's phone to sustain our daily life. 530.9.59 Just as Zuo Qiongqiong was grieving for spring and hurting autumn, she suddenly felt a commotion coming from behind her. She felt like she was being watched by a pair of eyes, and this feeling was really uncomfortable. Within a few seconds of slowly turning back, Zuo Qiongqiong even thought of an aggressive animal staring at her from behind. As long as I turn around, I'll give myself a pause. Zuo Qiongqiong's breathing was rapid, and she suddenly turned around, ready to run. However, in the moment of turning around, a pig's head directly entered her arms. What is the situation? Zuo Qiongqiong was confused. Holding on to the pig's head, he froze in place. This pigsty was built by the original owner himself after the separation, and the inside was covered with clean hay, so this lean pig is not dirty on its body, it's just a bit heavy. Zuo Qiongqiong felt inexplicably familiar with the current situation. She pushed the pig's head away, and from the other person's eyes, she actually felt that the pig was very hungry now. Zuo Qiongqiong took a big step back and almost tripped over the hay on the ground. Did she actually understand pig language? Zuo Qiongqiong widened her eyes and looked towards the direction of the old sow, who was also closely watching her. She saw her trembling legs and pig nose snorting, then turned around and lay back in the same position as before. If it was just speculation, then this time it is truly certain. The pig sound just now must be looking down on itself. Ah! She let out a loud cry, turned around, and ran towards home. Compared to being able to understand what pigs were saying, she still felt that she was more likely to be crazy. Under her feet were weeds, making it impossible to see the path clearly. Suddenly, Zuo Qiongqiong stepped on a small pit and rushed forward. Damn it, it seems like we're going to have a close embrace with the earth, but the imagined scene of falling to the ground did not occur, and a pair of strong arms firmly caught her. Are you okay? Zuo Qiongqiong was quite scared just now and quickly crawled out of the other person's arms to express gratitude. Thank you, thank you. She was stunned as soon as she looked up. What was the situation? Did the heavens send an angel to save her as compensation for coming to this haunted place? This is too handsome. Nearly 1.9 meters tall, dressed in a black suit, with muscles poised under a light-colored shirt, a large back, red phoenix eyes, and thin lips, isn't this your ideal shape? Zuo Qiongqiong wiped away the non-existent saliva from the corner of her mouth. Just as she was about to ask the handsome guy what his name was and if he had a partner, she unexpectedly took out a few hundred yuan bills from her wallet first. Get lost, take me out, VU 5000. The air suddenly became quiet, and Zuo Qiongqiong didn't know how to break this awkwardness by speaking up. The other party saw her not speaking, and their handsome eyebrows furrowed slightly. You can turn now, but you need to take me out, they said, seeking collections, seeking comments. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. Destiny Without Separation. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5. Destiny Without Separation. Through conversation, Zuo Qiongqiong learned that the other party was looking for people in Zuojia village, but due to poor signal in the mountains, the navigation guidance was in the wrong direction. His car was on the other side of the mountain and couldn't drive further, so he had to walk to find people and ask for directions. Zuo Qiongqiong's face turned red. Is this a stupid handsome guy? What a fate given by heaven. The two of them walked down the path towards the direction of the mountain, and Zuo Qiongqiong occasionally glanced at each other. She knew very well that the suit this man was wearing was expensive. Although he looked embarrassed at the moment, he was definitely not an ordinary person. Just like getting lost now, such people can still remain calm even in difficult situations. Two people are destined to be inseparable. It's better to have a good chat with each other at this time to not disappoint the opportunity given by heaven to meet them. Mr. Lu, where are you from? Zuo Qiongqiong was taken aback at the words, stopped and asked incredulously, have you never heard of me? Zuo Qiongqiong. Should I have heard of it? Zuo Qiongqiong took a deep breath, as if he had been insulted. He took out his phone and drew out a page, saying, look at it for yourself. Zuo Qiongqiong took over the electronic equipment that she had not been close to for a long time and looked at the Dunyang encyclopedia on the screen. First, there was a huge and refined picture exactly like the handsome man in front of her, and then there were a lot of words below. Zuo Qiongqiong, born in 1998 in Beijing, is a mainland Chinese actor who graduated from the Beijing Film Academy. He participated in his first TV play at the age of 5, and won the Best New Artist Award and Best Supporting Role Award, breaking the record of being the youngest in history. Looking at the whole article, Zuo Qiongqiong has only one idea. The handsome guy in front of her has truly lived up to the meaning of the word, handsome guy. This face is meant to benefit all humanity. Zuo Qiongqiong saw her stunned expression with a satisfied smile and said, now you know who I am, right? You bumpkin. Zuo Qiongqiong nodded and obediently handed over her phone, saying, I understand, Actor Lu. May I ask if you can sign for me later? The handsome guy belongs to countless young girls, and she won't get it, but she still needs this signature. I am extremely poor now, and in the future, I can sell it for money when I can't afford it. Zuo Qiongqiong didn't notice her thoughtfulness, but felt that although the woman in front of him had eyes and no eyes, she still had a good eye. So he waved his hand and said, of course, do you want to take a group photo? Zuo Qiongqiong pondered for a moment and said, we don't need a group photo anymore. That thing is not worth much. Of course, she didn't say the last half of the sentence. Zuo Qiongqiong only thought she was shy. She was indeed a bumpkin who grew up in the mountains, but she had never seen the world before. Forget it, just treat yourself as a charity and give her a few more signatures later. The speed of the two young people was not slow. In just a few minutes, they arrived at the foot of the mountain. Zuo Qiongqiong looked at him and asked, do you have any clue now? I haven't been out of the mountain gate before, so I can't see you out. You're a big star, when you go out. Found it. Before Zuo Qiongqiong could finish speaking, she saw the handsome guy sprinting out with his long legs, aiming for the old lady's home. Then, anyone passing by at this moment can clearly see a handsome man in a suit lying on the big iron door, banging on the door. Grandparents. It's me. I'm here to see you. I'm Xiaoye. Grandparents, open the door. Zuo Qiongqiong. Indeed, it was fate destined by heaven. She had just borrowed something from the old lady this morning and found their baby in the afternoon. If the door opened quickly, it might be a beautiful story of a lost boy returning home, but Zuo Qiongqiong stood here watching him forcefully knock on the door for a few minutes, and there was no movement inside. Zuo Qiongqiong had no choice but to give up and asked with concern, did something happen to my grandparents? Why haven't they opened the door yet? Zuo Qiongqiong also had this idea. When she came this morning, the old lady opened the door quite quickly. She looked at the side wall, took 2 steps back, and then climbed up the wall very flexibly, which stunned Zuo Qiongqiong. Zuo Qiongqiong didn't expect that this body was still very agile. Under the wall, the man reached out and asked to pull him up, and jumped into the yard, opening the door from inside. Quickly come in. Zuo Qiongqiong was taken aback for a moment, quickly coughed twice, and also tidied up his clothes. He strode inside the door and said, grandparents. Are you at home? He walked quickly inside and almost bumped into the old lady walking outside when he heard the commotion from inside the room. Fortunately, Zuo Qiongqiong next to her gave her a hand, otherwise the two would have collided. Lu Qingye also noticed that his emotions were too excited and took a few deep breaths to calm down. "Grandma, are you at home? Why didn't you and Grandpa agree when I knocked on the door?" Mei Hongmin looked at the child in front of her, and a hint of unnatural expression suddenly appeared on her face. "You come in first, and the little girl also comes in to talk," she said. Zuo Qiongqiong followed the two into the room, which was even more luxurious than the kitchen she had seen before. The outside of the house was similar to the buildings in the village, but there was a lot of space inside. Genuine leather sofa, massage chair, super large TV. If I'm not mistaken, the surrounding ornaments should be all antiques. Although Zuo Qiongqiong had never owned these things in her previous life, she was also a person who had seen the world before. The things in this room could almost buy the entire mountain. Looking at the dirty and even fishy clothes on her body, Zuo Qiongqiong was a bit afraid of getting dirty here. "You two have a good chat. I suddenly remembered something and I need to go home." Without waiting for the two people to answer, Zuo Qiongqiong quickly ran out of the old lady's house. She rushed halfway up the mountain in one breath and looked at the dangerous house not far away, suddenly feeling a little depressed. A day ago, she was still an ordinary food blogger. Although she didn't have much money, she was able to maintain her vitality. Her relationship with her family was not good, but she didn't see them many times a year. On weekdays, discussing the theme and filming of the video with one's friends can be considered a joyful time. But when I came here, nothing was left. No money, no house, no familiar everything. Zuo Qiongqiong's nose was sore and she wanted to cry a lot, but behind her came the sound of someone calling out. She turned around and found Lu Qingye panting heavily not far away. "What are you doing running so fast for? 5,000 yuan hasn't been transferred to you yet." So, Zuo Qiongqiong followed Lu Qingye back to the old lady's house at the foot of the mountain again. Because there was no signal on the mountain, the circles of the transfer went around countless times, and eventually turned into a red exclamation mark. Mei Hongmin brought fruits to the two of them, asking about Lu Qingye's work one by one. The man replied casually. "By the way, Grandma, what were you doing just now? I didn't even hear you knocking on the door." Mei Hongmin smiled awkwardly and said, "The lunch made by Xiaozhua is so delicious. The two of us ate a bit too much. We squinted for a while just now." "Is it just her?" Lu Qingye's face was full of suspicion. Seeking comments and collecting. 3. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. Try it, just try it. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6. Try it, just try it. As a food blogger, Zuo Qiongqiong has never been questioned about her cooking skills before. Upon hearing these words, she immediately exploded. "You can doubt my character, but you can't doubt my cooking skills." Lu Qingye was taken aback for a moment. He didn't expect her to react so strongly. He looked at her up and down and said, "I just doubted why. I just thought you wouldn't make anything delicious." Then he turned to the old lady and said, "Grandma, you two have been in this mountain for too long. If you try something else, you'll find it delicious. Why don't you come back with me and I'll take you to Beijing to eat something delicious?" Mei Hongmin patted Zuo Qiongqiong's hand and said with a loving expression, "Xiaozua's cooking is delicious. Today, I was discussing with your grandfather whether to invite Xiaozhua to cook for the two of us. We provide ingredients that you can make as you please. 3 meals a day will be priced according to the market price. What do you think?" Zuo Qiongqiong was surprised and didn't expect to get a job in just one lunch. She carefully thought about the dilapidated scene in her home, and an idea came to mind on paper. She asked, "Grandma, can I do it for free? Maybe I can shoot a video." Mei Hongmin smiled and said, "Of course you can. Wait a minute." Seeing the two of them chatting as if they had met too late, Lu Qingye could only secretly say that the woman in front of him had 2 tricks and could actually make his grandmother favor her more. No, it must be this woman who saw that their family had money, so she deliberately deceived her grandparents. Zuo Qiongqiong turned her head and saw the twisted expression of the Lu Ying emperor. After noticing her gaze, she glared fiercely. There is still a probationary period on duty. You can cook and let me taste it later. I think it's delicious, and I can offer you double your salary. If it's not delicious, you can never come to my grandmother's house again. After finishing these words loudly, Lu Qingye realized that he was a bit impulsive. It was inconvenient for both his grandfather and grandmother to travel and live in the mountains. It would be good if someone could take care of them. If the woman in front of her is really an honest person, she can also relax her requirements a bit. At the moment when Lu Qingye's divergent thinking was taking place, Zuo Qiongqiong secretly opened her phone and searched for the prices of ordinary 3 meals a day in Beijing. As a first-tier city, the prices were several times higher than those in this mountain valley. It's even double. Zuo Qiongqiong carefully counted those numbers and opened her mouth in surprise. Can there still be such a happy job at this time? It's simply tailored for those who love cooking. Mei Hongmin just wants to help this poor girl, Zuo Qiongqiong. She knows everything about her family, and her cooking is really delicious. If the other party is really willing to help them cook, it's killing 2 birds with 1 stone. But I didn't expect my child to be so ostracized. Xiaoye. When Mei Hongmin wanted to ease the atmosphere at the scene, Zuo Qiongqiong grabbed her hand and looked at the man solemnly. Okay, then I'll give it a try. Lu Qingye left this morning and has not taken a sip of water since then. This test has just begun. This is the second time that Zuo Qiongqiong has entered this kitchen today. Every time she comes in, she marvels at the diversity of the world. When she has money, she must also arrange these modern household appliances. Lu Qingye saw her standing motionless at the kitchen door and sneered coldly, if you say you can't do it now, there's still time. Otherwise, don't blame me for driving you out later. When Zuo Qiongqiong was a food blogger, she received countless negative reviews. At the beginning, she was very sad and explained word by word to the other party. There have been so many incidents like this, so Zuo Qiongqiong will no longer explain. Compared to language, hitting their faces with action is more convincing. Wearing Mei Hongmin's pink apron, Zuo Qiongqiong took a deep breath and opened the refrigerator. There was a chicken in the preservation layer, and she immediately had a recipe in her mind. Because I only need to cook for Lu Qingye alone, it requires a more exquisite taste. Zuo Qiongqiong skillfully broke down the whole chicken with a knife, with smooth movements and almost no use of chopping. In just a few clicks, she broke down the chicken legs, wings, and breast. First, blanch the chicken skeleton in water and stew the soup. Add a small amount of sake and spices to remove the fishy smell of the chicken. Place it on the stove and simmer over low heat. The chicken breast is divided into 2 thin slices from the middle, and gently beaten with the back of the knife to make it more tender and juicy, making it easier to marinate and savor. Crush ginger, scallions, and garlic to remove the fishy smell, then add some salt, light soy sauce, and pepper to season. Mix well by hand and set aside to marinate. Boneless and clean the chicken legs that were just removed, then marinate them with ginger, cooking wine, and salt. When 2 portions of meat were being marinated, Zuo Qiongqiong cooked a portion of rice. As soon as she closed the rice cooker, she heard Lu Qingye muttering softly behind her, "Why is it all meat? It's not nutritious and healthy." Zuo Qiongqiong remained silent and made a small cross at the top of the 2 tomatoes. She put them in boiling water and simmered them for easy peeling. Cut the tomatoes into small diced pieces and set aside. Heat the oil in the pot and add scallions, ginger, and garlic until fragrant. Add the prepared diced tomatoes and stir-fry until fragrant. Season with a little salt, add a small bowl of water, and wait for it to boil. At this moment Zuo Qiongqiong couldn't help but marvel at the benefits of having several pots at the old lady's house, making it convenient for her to prepare the dishes together. The marinated chicken legs that were just marinated are put into a pot and fried on both sides until golden brown. The chicken skin is also fried to a scorched degree. At this time, add the prepared secret sauce, light soy sauce, dark soy sauce, oyster sauce with half a bowl of water, and simmer over low heat until the sauce is collected. Prepare 2 spoons of flour, 1 spoonful of starch, and a little bit of baking powder to mix. Without breadcrumbs, manually make some dough. The marinated chicken ribs are first coated with a thin layer of flour, followed by egg mixture, and finally placed into the dough. Press tightly with your hands. Heat the oil at 60% heat and fry for about 6 minutes. When both sides turn golden, the pot can be served. At this moment, the rice cooker sounded a warning that the rice had been cooked. Zuo Qiongqiong put the rice into a bowl and pressed it tightly. She then placed the fried chicken chops on top and arranged them neatly. The chicken legs were taken out of the pot and placed on the other side. After boiling, add a few slices of baby bok choy to the tomato soup, add light soy sauce and white sugar for freshness, add a small ball of vermicelli to boil, sprinkle with scallions and take out of the pot. The final chicken soup has also been cooked, and Zuo Qiongqiong put it into a small bowl. The chicken soup is clear, and the oil stains on it have been skimmed clean. It only smells like the chicken itself. When serving the food to the table, Zuo Qiongqiong's nervous palms were sweating. On the one hand, she is nervous about whether she can pass the assessment of this big star, and on the other hand, she is comforting herself that even if she fails, it doesn't matter. Lu Qingye sat down with chopsticks and quietly swallowed his saliva. He was already hungry when the other person was cooking, but with his excellent acting skills, he successfully deceived the 2 people around him. At this moment, as I looked at the delicious food in front of me, my stomach couldn't help but scream. Before the 2 of them could speak, Lu Qingye raised his chopsticks and said, "I'm going to start. Do you like watching delicious food or farming? Feel free to leave a message and adjust according to your taste." End of this chapter. Chapter 7. What's wrong with eating too much? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7. What's wrong with eating too much? In front of him were some ordinary home-cooked dishes. Lu Qingye had never tasted any delicacies, but when he put a piece of chicken leg into his mouth, his eyes lit up. The entrance is soft and delicious, while retaining the crispy and tender taste of chicken skin. A piece of meat went down, and Lu Qingye looked up at his grandmother and the tense-looking Zuo Qiongqiong. He opened his mouth but didn't say a word, so he consciously took a piece of meat and stuffed it into his mouth. Although the speed is fast, every move is still pleasing to the eye. Zuo Qiongqiong was nervous about the evaluation he might give, but the other party just buried their heads and didn't say a word. The meal that was originally prepared for almost 2 people was suddenly finished by Lu Qingye alone. He wiped his mouth and said casually, "It's okay, it's all some home-cooked dishes, and there's not much water." Before he could finish speaking, Mei Hongmin patted him and the old lady kindly said, "I don't care if you're satisfied or not. Xiaozhua not only cooks well, but also has a clean tabletop after finishing the meal, which is stronger than others." So, Zuo Qiongqiong happily signed a contract with the old lady and even paid her this month's salary in advance. With money in hand, Zuo Qiongqiong's footsteps back home became much easier. From time to time, she took out her phone and glanced at it. 539.59 was already in the past, with 5,000 yuan to guide Lu Qingye and the month's salary advanced by the old lady. Now, Zuo Qiongqiong has over 10,000 yuan in her hands. After returning home, she immediately took off the dirty clothes on the 2 buns and changed into clean clothes. Although they faded a bit, they were at least clean. Soaking the dirty clothes in the water, Zuo Qiongqiong left the door with her 2 cubs. Zuo Fan could feel that his aunt was very happy now, but he didn't know why she was so happy. "Auntie, where are we going now?" Zuo Qiongqiong played a trick and said, "I won't tell you for now. We have money, go buy something." "Have money?" Zuo Fan was startled. A few days ago, his aunt said they only had a few hundred yuan left, not even enough money for meals. Why did they suddenly become rich? When my father was buried, the comments from my uncle and uncle came to my mind. How could the left daughter-in-law possibly pull the two children together? She's still young now and will definitely leave in 2 years, he said. Then that day, my mother left them and never came back. Does auntie no longer want them and plan to throw them both into the mountain ditch? Zuo Qiongqiong felt happy in her heart. Her walking pace quickened unnaturally, and she felt that the little girl on her left side was getting slower and slower. When she turned around, she found that the other person had already turned red in the eyes. What's wrong? Who bullied you? Zuo Qiongqiong panicked and immediately stopped to comfort her. Zuo Fan sobbed and said, Auntie, doesn't auntie want us anymore? Xiaoguang and I will be obedient and won't eat a lot of food. Zuo Qiongqiong understood that the little girl thought she was going to abandon the two of them. She quickly reached out her hand to wipe the other person's tears and said, What are you saying? How could my aunt possibly not want you? Wipe your tears quickly, let's go downstairs and buy delicious food. She remembered there was a small supermarket at the foot of the mountain, and the original owner had visited it several times. Zuo Qiongqiong could vaguely remember the route. There were so few things at home that she looked around and didn't even have a toothbrush. This left Qiongqiong couldn't bear it. I was originally planning to take my 2 children to the city to make some purchases, but it's too late today and I have to cook for the old lady and them later. So, I'll go to the small supermarket at the foot of the mountain as an emergency first. After a lot of persuasion, Zuo Qiongqiong took her 2 children down the mountain. For a food blogger who likes to hoard food, this supermarket is indeed a bit small, and can only be considered a small shop. Fortunately, there are quite a few things inside, and some daily necessities can be sold. Zuo Qiongqiong first bought toiletries for 3 people, then bought a brand new iron pot, and also prepared rice and noodles. The prices in the mountains and valleys are low, and I only used less than 300 yuan when I finally paid the bill. Xiaozhua, you've bought quite a lot of things here. Can I have someone help you deliver them later, said Li Jie, the owner of the small shop. She is in her 30s, with big waves of perm on her hair, and looks charming. She is crossing her legs and eating melon seeds at the counter. Zuo Qiongqiong was pleasantly surprised and said, Can you help deliver it? Do you want to charge me? They are all from the village, what do you charge? I'll have my family bring them to you later. Li smiled and gave the 2 children a lollipop each from the side. Thank you, Sister Li, said Zuo Qiongqiong gratefully. They brought some simple things back home first, and Zuo Qiongqiong tidied up the whole house. She packed all the unusable things and threw them away together later. Clean the stains and yellowed clothes on the table, and remove any debris from the floor of the house. After doing all of this, it was already dark. Xiaofan, Xiaoguang, can you 2 wait for me at home? I'll go cook for the old lady at the foot of the mountain first, and I'll be back soon. Zuo Qiongqiong turned on the dim yellow light in the room, and the organized room became quite spacious. Some new things were added, at least it looked like a place to live. When will auntie come back? Zuo Guang asked eagerly. In the small supermarket, Zuo Qiongqiong bought some snacks for the 2 children, but they were reluctant to eat and carefully divided how much they ate every day. Zuo Qiongqiong touched his little head and said, I'll be back in a while. You guys have some snacks first. If you're hungry, I'll come back. Aha. Watching the soft and cute 2 buns nodding their heads obediently, Zuo Qiongqiong thought to herself, it seemed like she needed to plan carefully, otherwise she would have to cook 6 meals every day. She hurried towards Mei Hongmin's house and saw Lu Qingye waiting at the door from a distance. When the man saw her, his furrowed brows relaxed slightly and he said with some displeasure, Why are you only here now? I'm almost starving. If I remember correctly, you should have eaten for less than 3 hours. Zuo Qiongqiong looked at Lu Qingye's tall figure and suddenly realized that although this celebrity needed body management, the figure in front of her was already very good. Too thin, maybe you need to gain weight, right? A hint of unnatural expression flashed on Lu Qingye's face. You have to take care of it. After entering the kitchen this time, Zuo Qiongqiong opened her phone and started recording videos, while also reminding Lu Qingye not to enter the camera. She has already created a video account, but Zuo Qiongqiong is planning to upload a few food videos to attract traffic first, so that she can also have works for people to watch when she doesn't start live streaming in the future. Due to the lack of a phone holder, Zuo Qiongqiong had to adjust the screen from time to time. This meal was later than expected, but fortunately, the old lady and Lu Qingye did not mind. The dinner was simple with 3 dishes and 1 soup. There was no rice cooked, but the porridge that the elderly loved was made. When it came out, it was already very dark. Zuo Qiongqiong was worried that her 2 children would be scared at home, so she ran up the mountain and even fell halfway, but fortunately it didn't hurt. The slightly yellow light peeked out from the cracks in the wall, exuding warmth. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. Live digging potatoes. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8. Live digging potatoes. Zuo Qiongqiong took a slow breath and pushed open the decayed wooden door. Zuo Fan sat by the bed with red eyes, and beside him was Zuo Guang, who was already asleep. At this moment, Zuo Qiongqiong didn't know how to feel, but since she came here, she had to take on the responsibility of the original owner. Auntie. Zuo Fan let out a soft shout, and Zuo Guang beside him opened his eyes. He sat up and rubbed his own eyes, saying, Auntie, you have finally come back. I have fallen asleep. Zuo Qiongqiong washed her hands and apologized, it's a bit late today. Tomorrow, I'll finish dinner for both of you before going down. There are no entertainment options in the mountains, and even this home doesn't have a TV. It's natural for children to go to bed early. It's getting late. Zuo Qiongqiong charged up her mobile phone and then boiled water. Fortunately, she bought noodles and eggs in the small supermarket today. With the seasoning marinated with shallots, a bowl of clear noodles in soup soon came out of the pot. After taking the bowl over, the 2 children quickly started sucking and sliding, it seemed like they were really hungry. Zuo Qiongqiong also quickly finished dinner and washed up with her 2 children. The workload today was a bit heavy, and I was sweating all over. Unfortunately, without a hot water kettle, I couldn't even boil water. The 2 little buns finished their meal and went to bed, looking very obedient. Zuo Qiongqiong held her phone and edited the video recorded at Mei Hongmin's house today. The website she chose is the most popular video app in the world. Suefa, where many people record their daily lives. Basically, each video is about 3 or 4 minutes long. And the software also comes with a simple video editing function, although only a few can be used, it is already sufficient for the current Zuo Qiongqiong. She cut out all the shots of moving her phone in the video, deleted the extra time, and then selected a suitable music. Finally, she checked it and confirmed that there were no omissions before clicking publish. This was the most proficient thing she had done before, but due to the original owner's phone lagging and the lack of professional video editing software, 2 hours had passed without realizing it. She stretched lazily and put down her hot phone, it seemed like she was going to buy a new one. Zuo Qiongqiong put down her phone and closed her eyes. Although it was her first night in this world, she didn't seem to have any discomfort. Apart from the hard bedding underneath, there was a slight breeze in the room, and the sound of 2 cubs breathing beside them. Early in the morning, the sunlight shone through the crack in the door into the room. Zuo Qiongqiong suddenly stood up and looked at everything around her, finally realizing the fact that she had traveled through time. The 2 buns hadn't woken up yet, so she quietly got up and started preparing breakfast for today. With a beep on his phone, it was a message from Lu Qingye, you don't need to come this morning, we've already had it. Zuo Qiongqiong looked at the time and found that it was 7 o'clock. In the world of young people, it's not too late, perhaps it's the lack of sleep of two elderly people. Zuo Qiongqiong silently set an alarm for herself, so don't be too late tomorrow. Breakfast consists of simple porridge and fried eggs. Both buns are very thin, so it's important to supplement their nutrition. As soon as the eggs were put into the oil pot, the fragrance spread out, and the two balls on the bed moved twice at the same frequency before waking up. Auntie, it smells so fragrant. After waking up, Zuo Guang wanted to bed barefoot, but Zuo Qiongqiong hugged him first and put him back on the bed. You can't run around barefoot in the future, otherwise you may get stabbed, she said. The road in this mountain is already difficult to walk, and Zuo Qiongqiong feels uncomfortable wearing cloth shoes. This child's feet should be delicate and tender, but they just don't feel any pain. Zuo Guang nodded obediently and said, Auntie, I know. Left Fan on the side had already put on her own clothes and shoes. Left Qiongqiong asked her to take her brother to wash her face and take out the fried eggs from the pot by herself. She has prepared for her morning work and is not very short of money now. She takes care of the things here during her free time, cooking for the old lady every day. What we need to do today is to dig out all the potatoes on the back mountain. The original owner dug for 2 days and then stopped picking. There is still a lot left, which is now left for Zuo Qiongqiong. After finishing her meal, she walked out with a hoe and 2 cubs. Most of the young people in the village have gone out to work, and the farmland on the mountain is cultivated by Zuo Qiongqiong. They usually grow potatoes and corn, which are crops that can grow well in the mountains. The potato sprouts have already been pulled to the ditch by the original owner, and she is responsible for pulling out these potatoes. On weekdays, these potatoes are food for winter, not only for humans but also for pigs. Thinking of the pig that was winking at her, Zuo Qiongqiong felt tired and hoped that she hadn't fed it yesterday and had already starved to death today. Zuo Qiongqiong raised her hoe and dug potatoes according to her memory. With one hoe, she only heard a crisp sound. When she pulled out the hoe, a large potato had already been chopped in half. This is my first time doing it, and it's already very good. Zuo Qiongqiong comforted herself. In the next half hour, she finally found the texture, although it cannot be said that there is no 100% damage, at least a few can appear after a while. After resting for a while, Zuo Qiongqiong got up again and took out her phone. She found that the signal here was very good. Isn't this a good way to attract popularity through live streaming? Let netizens experience the joy of digging potatoes with her. She set the name of the live broadcast room to Experience Opening Blind Boxes with the host, and just as she was about to open the live broadcast room, Lu Qingye unexpectedly called. Hey, we're going to the city. Grandma asked if you don't have anything you need to bring. The man's voice remained as impatient as ever, and he could still vaguely hear Mei Hongmin scolding him in a low voice, urging him to speak well. Can you bring me a power bank and a phone holder? Zuo Qiongqiong doesn't have much money in her hand. She originally wanted to get a new phone, but now it needs to be used in more important ways. After rambling on for a while, Zuo Qiongqiong found that there was no movement on the other side. She looked at it and it showed that she was still on the call. Is the signal bad? Is there anything else? Lu Qingye suddenly spoke. No more. Thank you. Zuo Qiongqiong quickly replied. The other party lacked any patience and even hung up the phone without confirming with her. However, Zuo Qiongqiong did not feel uncomfortable. The other party and she had only known each other for less than 24 hours. Not only did they find a job for themselves, but they were also very grateful for their help. She even felt that the 5,000 yuan she charged the other party for transportation yesterday was too expensive. Zuo Qiongqiong threw her thoughts out of her mind and promised to give them back when she had money. Then skillfully turn on the live streaming camera and aim at where you just stood. After waiting for about 5 minutes, more than 10 people came in one after another in the live broadcast room. This was her first live broadcast, and it was already difficult for someone to stay. My next step is to dig potatoes, and the quantity and size of potatoes under each potato seedling are uncertain. I hope my family who enjoy watching me dig potatoes can pay more attention. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. Family. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The source has no content or has errors. Chapter 10. Skyscrapers. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10. Skyscrapers. Mei Hongmin looked at the cheerful atmosphere in the live broadcast room and said, "What do you know? Xiaozhua has so many ideas, and I have never seen such a live broadcast before." After her child entered the entertainment industry, Mei Hongmin would occasionally go to Weibo to check, but every time she could see some people slander. Later on, she found out that it was called black powder, and there were many people who were popular. Under the comfort of her family, she didn't pay much attention to those comments, but today, the comments section of Xiaozhua is different. Everyone is seriously guessing how many potatoes are in the soil and whether they will spoil. The atmosphere can be said to be very good. She's just being clever. If I spend money, she should be thinking about how to cook meals for both of you every day. This is a dual purpose, and I'll deduct her salary later. Lu Qingye snorted coldly. He had originally planned to open his eyes early in the morning and eat the food prepared by the other party, just like at home in Beijing. However, before the other party arrived, his grandmother had already prepared the food. Although grandma's food is not unpleasant, it is definitely not delicious, and she is also a spoiled mouth. In order not to waste my grandmother's heart, I can only eat clean myself. Mei Hongmin glanced at her grandson's unhappy expression and turned her gaze back to the screen. You don't know, this little left is a poor child. He finally got into college and walked out, but his big brother is gone again, so he can only take a leave of absence and come back. I'm still a child, and I have to take care of 2 children. I helped her also to accumulate some blessings for myself. Within my ability, I can help whenever I can. Upon hearing this, Lu Qingye did not express any further dissatisfaction with Zuo Qiongqiong, but nodded. Mei Hongmin knew that the purpose of Zuo Qiongqiong's live broadcast was to subsidize her family. If she gave her money directly to help her, the other party would definitely not want it. Just like yesterday when I exchanged fish for something, I was afraid that I would not be able to repay my debt. She looked at the small gift effects popping up from time to time and had a thought in her heart. She asked, "Xiaoye, do you have any money in here?" Lu Qingye immediately understood that his grandmother was trying to give him a reward. He had originally intended to say something more, but upon second thought, it was hard for $1,000 to buy a happy old man. So he changed his mind and said, "Yes, you can use it as you please." Mei Hongmin, who received a positive answer, immediately opened the gift list and glanced at everything inside. She had Lamborghini, helicopters, hearts, and lollipops, and the moderately priced one was the skyscraper, worth 5,000 yuan. This is the little girl's first live broadcast. Although there are some small gifts, we still need to find a similar supporting scene. So Mei Hongmin directly brushed 3 skyscrapers for Zuo Qiongqiong, and the already lively live broadcast room exploded. Lu Qingye gives Left Fugue a skyscraper for live broadcasting. Lu Qingye gives Anchor Zuo Fugue a skyscraper. Lu Qingye gives Anchor Zuo Fugue a skyscraper. The built.in message of this system flashed on top of the live broadcast room, and netizens who were still betting were stunned. Oh my goodness! Skyscrapers! I remember this was the Anchor's first live broadcast, right? Do you remember the girl dancing next door, who didn't even give me anything from Brother Bang? Skyscraper. Anchor, you don't need to dig potatoes anymore. No, do I think the name of the gift giver is a bit familiar to me? Lu Qingye. It's Lu Qingye. The homepage has been authenticated. What's the situation? My idol and I watched the same live stream. Fans of Lu Qingye who heard the wind quickly rushed into the live broadcast room, and the already stuck live broadcast room was almost forced to close. Zuo Qiongqiong, who had just dug out potatoes from the soil, didn't know what had happened yet. Congratulations to the family members who guessed correctly this time, when they saw thousands of people rushing into their live broadcast room. What happened here? Is your live streaming so charming? She blocked the sunlight above her head, carefully flipped through the constantly popping comments, and finally found out the truth through the mouths of netizens in the live broadcast room. Zuo Qiongqiong was watching her live broadcast and even gave her a gift worth 15,000 yuan. Ah! What kind of world is this? You should know that her whole body doesn't add up to 15,000 yuan. Did the other party give her a light and graceful reward like this? Under the reminder of netizens in the live broadcast room, Zuo Qiongqiong did not forget to thank the other party. Thank you, brother Zuo Qiongqiong, for bringing the skyscraper. Thank you. Why don't I give you all the potatoes for today? Zuo Qiongqiong, who was still driving, suddenly heard the other person's angry words of gratitude, but didn't realize for a moment. Is this his big phone? How can one allow oneself to see a village girl digging potatoes in the image of a little fairy? How can it be? Zuo Qiongqiong's hands trembled as he looked at his happy grandmother in the rearview mirror. He took a deep breath. As long as the grandmother was happy, so long as she was happy. If just now it was just a new way of live streaming that caught people's attention, then now it has become what kind of live streaming it is that even actor Lu couldn't help but watch. The marketing account that was moved by the news immediately arrived at the live broadcast room, and they needed to find the difference between the anchor and others in the shortest possible time. So, as the number of people in the live broadcast room gradually increased to tens of thousands, the screen suddenly went black. Zuo Qiongqiong felt a surge of dizziness as she held her hot phone, which was so hot that she could even bake potatoes. After waiting for a few minutes, she finally entered the accompanying app to meet again. After a while, the video she posted last night already had thousands of comments. Zuo Qiongqiong clicked on the interface for posting updates and edited a paragraph, saying, "Sorry, my family. My phone is too hot. This morning's live broadcast will come to an end, and we will continue this afternoon." She just finished posting and after refreshing, several comments appeared. "Anchor, come on. I'll give you a motorcycle in the afternoon. The anchor will start broadcasting early in the afternoon. Hurry up and earn money to buy a new phone. The host should change a router. The network is too stuck. The anchor can't leave. I still have to bet on potatoes." Unlike the scene where Zuo Qiongqiong was worried, most of the comments were in support of her. It seems that no one can escape the charm of opening blind boxes. Put the potatoes dug this morning into a bag, and Zuo Qiongqiong carried the bag and went home with her 2 children. She also needs to prepare lunch for the old lady and them, so she can't delay digging potatoes for too long. On the way home, it was inevitable to pass by the pigsty. Zuo Qiongqiong wanted to hurry over and didn't want to have any interaction with that strange pig, but the 2 clumps around her ran over in a flash. Zuo Qiongqiong stopped and didn't dare to go. "Auntie, come over quickly. Look at the pigs." End of this chapter.